Mom has a ledger that records all my expenses for food, clothing, housing, and transportation from childhood to adulthood. On the eve of my younger brother's wedding, she took out the ledger. Zhao, Mom has raised you for so long. It's time for you to repay me. Reborn and back, I calmly and promptly pulled out my own ledger. All right, let's settle the accounts from all these years. In the end, it turned out she owed 58,000 yuan. My mom went crazy. My dad blew up. My brother wants to kick me out of the house. In my previous life, when my mother took out the account book, I felt guilty. After all these years, eating, drinking, and using their resources, it's only right to repay my parents. Besides, my family is famously not one that favors sons over daughters. I have everything my younger brother has, and the neighbors all say I'm lucky, as my parents didn't neglect me after having a son. So I willingly took out the 100,000 yuan I had saved from 3 years of work. However, the 100,000 yuan was just the beginning. My younger brother, while in college, started dating a wealthy and beautiful girlfriend, and his monthly living expenses alone exceeded 5,000 yuan. When my mother came to me again in tears, I gritted my teeth and took on the responsibility of covering my brother's monthly living expenses. I earn 8,000 a month, 5,000 goes to my brother, 1,500 for rent, and the remaining 1,500 is what I grit my teeth to live on. My brother graduated from college, and I thought the hard days were finally over, that I could finally move out of the shared apartment, but he suddenly brought up marriage, demanding that the family buy him a house in the provincial capital. My parents scraped together all their savings, 300,000, for the down payment, and demanded that I cover the monthly mortgage of 6,700. I was about to refuse when my mother earnestly persuaded me. Your brother just graduated and is still studying full-time at home to prepare for the civil service exam. Where would he get the money to repay the loan? My father also said matter-of-factly, I've always treated you and your brother equally since you were young. Which other girl is as fortunate as you? Don't they all give their bride price to their brothers for marriage early on? I have been brainwashed for years, unable to refute, and unwillingly took on the loan. Moving out of the shared apartment in the city center, I came to a more remote suburban shared apartment, struggling to breathe under the pressure of the loan every month. The boss knew I had a mortgage and recklessly fired new employees, handing the work of 5 people to me alone. If you don't do it, there are plenty of others who will. What will you do about the mortgage every month if you don't work? When I complain to my parents, they just say, be patient. Listen to your boss more. It must be something you did wrong for him to scold you. During the New Year holiday, relatives came to visit our home. They kept praising my younger brother for being considerate and worry-free, having found a girlfriend early on. They also asked if I hand over my salary to my parents. Mom smiled and said, "Oh, that's all old-fashioned thinking. I never ask about her money." Dad also said proudly, "Our family has never favored sons over daughters." Relatives all praised my parents for being open-minded, and my cousins also envied me for having such wonderful parents, but I felt as if I had fallen into an ice cellar. My parents' smiles were like blunt knives cutting into my flesh, each stroke a silent agony. Yes, they don't touch my money, but they transfer all of it to my brother. Everyone knows my family doesn't favor sons over daughters, so who would believe I'm carrying the mortgage for my brother's wedding home? What truly opened my eyes was my brother's girlfriend, Jiang Yan, the beautiful and wealthy girl. She promptly kicked my parents and me out of the marital home and persuaded them to deposit my salary directly into my brother's account. I firmly refused, but she actually hired people to cause a scene at my company's entrance, which ultimately cost me my job. However, I also discovered her false identity as a wealthy and beautiful woman while arguing with her on the rooftop. She pushed me off the top floor, and I fell to my death. I had thought that my parents would at least be heartbroken, blame Jiang Yan, and send her to prison. However, they just glanced at my body indifferently and comforted Jiang Yan. Mom believes you definitely didn't mean to do it. Mom agrees to issue a letter of understanding. It's all my sister's fault for being unreasonable. If she had listened to you and transferred the money to my cart earlier, she wouldn't have had to die. How could she bear to make me, her father, bury my own child? What an unfilial daughter. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment my mother was pregnant with her second child. The person who caused my death with lingering regrets was now just an embryo lying in my mother's womb. The couple sat on the sofa, with my father trying to persuade her to quit her job and focus on the pregnancy. Zhao, come and persuade your mother to stay home and give birth to your brother. In my previous life, I didn't understand why my father was so certain it was a brother and not a sister, and why he encouraged my mother to bravely be herself. As a result, my father slapped me across the face. Later, the two of them returned from the hospital for a prenatal checkup, beaming with joy, and my mother even quit her job that paid 5,000 yuan without a second thought. It wasn't until I grew up that I learned my father had an old classmate at the hospital who secretly revealed the gender of the fetus. I stepped forward crisply and spoke under my mother's expectant gaze. "Mom, you're being so unreasonable. Dad is only doing this for your own good. You absolutely must give the Sue family a son." Dad laughed heartily. "Well said. That's my daughter." Mother, feeling both humiliated and wronged, retorted, "You ungrateful little wretch." I deliberately hid in my dad's arms. "Dad, I'm scared. Don't be afraid. Here, take 10 yuan and go buy some snacks yourself. Don't forget to bring back a bottle of soy sauce." I nodded obediently, but secretly wrapped the money tightly in a plastic bag and hid it under a brick in my room. For an 8-year-old child, 10 yuan was a huge sum of money, but a bottle of soy sauce costs 9.5 yuan. That means my real pocket money is only 50 cents. They act exceptionally generous in front of the neighbors, handing out 10 or 20 yuan without even a glance, but I know that if I dare to spend it recklessly, I will definitely not escape a beating. In the evening, I returned home after wandering around for a while. Seeing me empty-handed, my mother questioned, "Where's the soy sauce?" I dropped and broke it on the way. She immediately flew into a rage, grabbing my ear and hitting me. "You frivolous rascal, you can't even hold a bottle of soy sauce steady. What else can you do? If it weren't for you, I would have been promoted and gotten a raise long ago. You little bastard, you son of a bitch." Mom always likes to take out all the anger she can't vent on Dad on me, but having lived a second life, who's afraid of whom? Without a second thought, I climbed out the window, pretending to be forced into jumping. "Mom, I was wrong. I won't fight with my brother over anything from now on. Please don't hit me." "Okay." The neighbor, who was still cooking, immediately caught a whiff of gossip and peeked toward our house with a bowl in hand. My dad, who had just gotten off work downstairs, heard the commotion and rushed home with a dark expression on his face. "Zhang Shuan, why are you hitting the child?" The mother was left speechless, recalling what her husband had told her, that their daughter must not be mistreated. Otherwise, she might end up like her sister-in-law, whom she had never met, who made money and went abroad to live a good life, leaving him and their elderly mother-in-law behind in poverty, without a single penny to their name. Ever since our daughter was born, my husband has repeatedly emphasized the importance of giving her plenty of small favors. On the surface, we treat her fairly, so that when she grows up, she will willingly listen and obey. She dropped the soy sauce. I continued to cry loudly, and the neighbor's child heard it, gloating with delight. "Turns out Su Zhaodi is just like us at home too. Life will be even harder once she has a little brother." Dad walked over, picked me up, and comforted me, just like a loving father. "Zhaodi, don't cry. It's just spilled soy sauce. It's okay. Dad isn't mad at you." If I hadn't witnessed his cold-blooded and ruthless demeanor in a past life, I would truly be deceived by their surface-level kindness. I've been acting for 20 years, so it's no wonder I was brainwashed in my past life. Every household expense that had anything to do with me was recorded by my mother in a separate account book. While they were out, I quietly opened my mother's account book. October 9th, Sunny, Zhaodi ate 1 apple, $3, daily food expenses shared equally, $10, washing machine wear and tear fee, $1. As a mother, I am really good to Zhaodi. October 10th, cloudy, Zhaodi broke the soy sauce, 9. 5 yuan, bought toys to coax Zhaodi, 30 yuan, Zhaodi is being difficult, don't want to raise her anymore, 10, 11 Sunny, my husband has a friend at the hospital who secretly told me we're having a boy, bought new clothes for Zhaodi, 100, raising a girl is too expensive. The further I read, the more I felt that my filial piety in my past life was nothing but a joke, not to mention how outrageous the daily expenses recorded in the ledger were. It seemed as if they were trying to squeeze $10 out of me for every meal I ate. Why didn't my mother keep a ledger for my brother? In the end, I should have realized it when she pulled out the ledger back then. I returned to my room and took out my own ledger. In my memory, my aunt, who lives far abroad, used to send me $3,000 every year as New Year's money. My parents always saved it under the excuse of keeping it for me, but when I asked about it later, it was gone. Now that I've been given a second chance at life, it's time to settle some old scores. From 0 to 8 years old, $3,000 per year, according to the exchange rate. The total is 168,000 yuan. I solemnly wrote down this number in the account book. Going to my grandparents' house for the new year, the elderly couple were very happy to see my mother's bulging belly. Shuan, take good care of yourself during your pregnancy. You must give our old Su family a big, healthy boy. As she spoke, Grandma handed my mother a thin red envelope. Mother's eyes welled up with emotion. At the dinner table, Grandpa suddenly brought up the money sent by my aunt from abroad. Father said sternly, "Dad, that money is all saved for Zhaodi. How many times have I said we can't touch it?" I sneered. "Saved for me." In the end, it just ended up benefiting their wallets. If you don't want to support your parents, don't use me as an excuse. You truly are the biggest joker in a 100-mile radius. In my grandparents' eyes, I'm practically invisible, with my aunt's example as a cautionary tale. They don't dare to hit or scold me, afraid that I might wise up and follow in her footsteps by going abroad to live a good life and leaving them behind, but they couldn't treat me well either, so they could only treat me as if I were heir. Now the old couple looked at me with even more hostility, as if I had swallowed their money. When you have too many lice, you don't feel the itch. When you have too many debts, you don't worry. Anyway, they don't like me, and even if I explained, they wouldn't believe me. I was eating braised pork belly heartily, without a care in the world. Grandpa and Grandma, eat more. Oh, I forgot you don't have teeth and can't chew, so I won't hold back. As I spoke, I scooped all the braised pork belly from the plate into my own bowl, completely oblivious to the situation. The following summer, my mother gave birth to a younger brother. My father held his head high in front of our relatives, proudly declaring that the Sioux family finally had a descendant, yet he didn't forget to put on a show. Zhaodi, don't worry, your parents won't neglect you because of your brother. Whatever your brother has, you'll have too. My mother held my brother close, kissing him over and over, treating him as if he were a precious treasure. Zhaodi, you must love your younger brother well. In the future, when our parents are no longer around, he will be your only blood relative. I translated it in my mind, and the general meaning is as follows. Zhaodi must be a devoted sister who supports her brother in the future. Even after our parents pass away, she must continue to let her brother take advantage of her, but who doesn't know how to say nice words? Okay, Mom, but today my brother bought clothes, and I didn't. Didn't Dad say that whatever my brother has, I should have too? The couple exchanged awkward glances, and in the end, Dad took me to a small roadside shop to buy a set of clothes. In my previous life, I didn't understand why the store where my brother bought clothes was different from the one where I bought mine. Wouldn't it be more convenient to buy from the same store? Later I found out that the store where my brother bought clothes was called Bozading, while the store where I bought clothes was called Sijikan. My brother was as arrogant and rude as in my previous life, treating me like heir at home. Perhaps my parents had given him some advice, so he wouldn't boss me around. He just looked at me with the same contemptuous gaze. In my past life, I always wondered why my younger brother wasn't close to me, even though I, as his older sister, provided both care and money. Now I know, with parents as role models, how good can his attitude towards ATMs be, but I did not persuade or change his mind. Trash remains trash even after a second life. This ATM won't spit out another penny for him. After graduating from university, I went to Xinjiang to seek development opportunities, despite my parents' objections. I leveraged the information gap from my past life to enter a major company, working 007-style hours and overtime without complaint, which greatly satisfied my superiors. 3 months later, I successfully became a regular employee and managed to save a substantial amount of money within a year of graduation. During the Chinese New Year, the company surveyed how many people could continue working during the holiday break. As the king of workaholics, I naturally chose to stay. Not only can I earn triple pay during the new year, but I also get a daily bonus of 1,000 yuan. Plus a 300 yuan meal allowance. Additionally, overtime pay during the holiday period is doubled. This news, however, left my parents quite displeased. All the other relatives, no matter how busy they are, have come back. Why are you the only one not returning? Your cousin bought her parents gifts worth over 3,000 yuan this year. My mother's implication was clearly that I should also buy gifts worth 4 or 5,000 yuan, but I pretended not to understand. Mom, I really want to come home too, but my company won't allow it. You know how expensive the rent is in Shenzhen. I'm barely scraping by with my daily meals. How about you help me out a bit? I heard that when my cousin was working away from home, her parents gave her 1,000 yuan subsidy every month. On the other end of the phone, my mother began making excuses and evading the issue. It was nothing more than living expenses, my younger brother's school fees, and the family not having enough money, but there was no shortage of concern. I was the same way, no money to offer, but plenty of empty words to spare. In the end, my mother couldn't stand the empty promises I was making and chose to hang up the phone. 2 more years passed, and my younger brother entered university. According to the trajectory of his previous life, he should have been attracted to the rich and beautiful Jiang Yan at this moment, starting his journey of chasing after her like a devoted admirer. My brother inherited our father's short stature and our mother's plumpness, so winning over a goddess like her wouldn't be easy. Without a financial foundation, it would be absolutely impossible, so he asked for money more and more frequently, until finally my parents couldn't take it anymore and simply made me take over. On the phone, my father's low voice carried a tone of exhaustion. Zhaodi, Dad has no choice. I've recently had my salary cut, and the family is struggling to make ends meet. Could you cover the living expenses for the next 6 months? After that, I'll figure something out. In my past life, when I heard words like temporary and 6 months, I agreed without hesitation. The result is that in the end, I even had to cover the mortgage and utility bills. On the other end of the phone, I gathered my emotions and started playing the victim too. Wah wah. I wish I could too, after all. He's my own brother, but I was recently laid off. My landlord kicked me out in the middle of the night without returning the deposit because his son was getting married. I got stood up while job hunting, and now I only have $15 left. Dad, could you lend me $1,000 to help me out? I'm really starving. Listening to my heartfelt sobs, my father still didn't believe me. You've been working for 3 years and have no savings at all. That can't be possible. I pretended to hesitate, and finally, as if forced into a corner, I burst into loud sobs. I'm sorry, I didn't want to drag you into this, but I was scammed out of 200,000 yuan by fraudsters in northern Myanmar, and then I borrowed 300,000 yuan from loan sharks. I'm really at the end of my rope. Dad, please, can you lend me 100,000 yuan to pay them back, you idiot? How could I have raised such a fool? Getting scammed. You're so stupid. Father angrily threw a cup on the other end of the phone. I put on a dramatic act. Dad, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I'll never gamble again. Please lend me 100,000. No, 50,000 will do. Clearly, they didn't want to lend the money but didn't know how to respond. After all, they are modern parents who don't favor sons over daughters. The call was hung up amidst my cries. The moment the phone was hung up, my wailing ceased, controlled and effortless. I thought even if I couldn't work overtime and got laid off in the future, I could still go to Indian and try my luck as an extra. Taking a deep breath, I suddenly felt a gaze fixed upon me. Turning around, the man had been watching for who knows how long. Sorry to interrupt. Please continue. These words, spoken from his mouth, carried a somewhat condescending tone. Fortunately, my mental fortitude is strong. 1-minute performance fee is 10,000. Sir, Alipay or WeChat? While he hesitated, wondering whether to pay, I took my coffee and walked straight out. For the sake of realism, on the third New Year's Eve I didn't want to go home. I called each of my relatives to borrow money, 5,000 to 10,000, varying amounts. Borrow it now and pay it back slowly later. If you don't borrow, then don't. 3 days later, my parents called me in a furious rage. Did you borrow money from your uncle and aunt? I stirred up tears, began to make a fuss, and finally got a sentence. Don't come back for the new year this year. Done. My third New Year spent alone in Shenzhen, and my landlord brought me a plate of dumplings. After I was full, I went around to various major malls, buying expensive skincare and cosmetics without even looking at the prices. My good mood lasted until I received another call from my mother, who said she would come to Shenzhen to take care of me after the new year, keep my salary safe for me so I don't get scammed again. All right. Since they don't believe me, I'll just keep up the act for them, miss. Here is your skincare set. We look forward to your next visit. I glanced at the luxury store clerk and said, do you have any unbranded cosmetic boxes here? Please help me put all the creams and lotions from the set into those unbranded cosmetic boxes. The clerk was about to refuse, but I held up 2 fingers. Buy 2 more sets. The clerk gritted his teeth and said, yes, I'll find it for you right away. Back at the company, I treated the finance lady and my boss to a meal. From then on, my salary of 27,000 would be deposited into my old card, and the remaining 3,000 would go to my new card. On the way back, I bought some fruits for the landlady that she usually couldn't afford to eat. Auntie, from now on, when you collect the rent, please be strict. Come check my room often, and it's best if you nitpick. The landlady had never seen such a bizarre request, but she agreed without issue under my strong insistence. Back in the room, I took all the expensive clothes and jewelry to a bank safe deposit box for storage. I tore off all the new wallpaper, revealing the mottled walls beneath. In less than an hour, the once clean and cozy rental apartment became a complete mess. The 8th day of the Chinese New Year, I dressed up and put on makeup, waiting for my mother's arrival at the high-speed rail station. There are still half an hour before the high-speed train arrives. My mother is on the phone in the carriage. I'll definitely take a good look at what trick she's playing. She said she owes high-interest loans outside, but we haven't received any nude photos on our phones. Maybe this girl has made money outside and doesn't want to come back. Deliberately making excuses, we're almost there, let's stop chatting. After getting out of the car, I frantically waved to signal my mother to look over. Mom, you're finally here. I've missed you so much. Mother glanced at my clothes. You don't look like you're short on money. What on earth have you been up to out there? I waved my hand. When you're out and about, you've got to have a couple of decent outfits to show off. Then, glancing around, I whispered softly, Direct from the source, low-quality knockoffs, the genuine ones cost $3,000, but this one is only $30. Mom, if you like it, I'll buy 2 for you to take back. My mother had lived a smooth life and had never worn counterfeit goods, so she shook her head. I don't wear fakes. After leaving the station, I took my mother straight to the subway. Mom, hurry up, or we'll miss this subway and have to wait for the next one. With so many people around, taking a taxi would be much more convenient. Mother held herself with an air of dignity. She had come to enjoy a life of ease, not to suffer. I wore an awkward expression, too embarrassed to speak up. Taking the subway is cheaper. A taxi would cost over $100. Besides, I only have $50 left in my pocket, and we still need to have lunch, right? Mother's expression darkened, but she didn't argue further. Subway line 3 is notoriously known as the line of death. I've squeezed onto it a few times during my internship, but I haven't had to since the company started providing employee shuttle buses. The holiday crowds are beyond description. It's like a scene from hell. I grabbed my mother's hand and desperately pushed my way into the train car. Ouch, ouch. Who stepped on my foot? Jody, don't pull me. I can't squeeze in. I turned a deaf ear to her pleas. I just kept pulling her, pushing my way further into the train car. Mom, hurry up. Every trip is this crowded. You'll have to get used to it too when you come. My mother had never experienced such hardship before. Although the third-tier small city wasn't prosperous, its infrastructure was good. Usually, when taking the bus, someone would give up their seat for her. After arriving at the station, I once again took my mother's hand and squeezed through the dense, impenetrable wall of people. Mom, are you okay? I looked at her disheveled hair and the shoe prints all over her leather shoes. Feigning concern, she sighed, holding her forehead. This big city is no place for people. Where has the quality of young people gone these days? I've been standing in front of that young man for so long, and he still wouldn't give up his seat. I sighed too. That's just how big cities are. We're all working dogs. And that young man's physical condition might not even be as good as hers, as a city for young people. Shenzhen never lacks fresh blood. When we arrived at the rental apartment, I warmly invited her inside. Mom, come on in. This is where I live. With you here, it feels like home. Mother frowned and refused to enter, covering her nose with one hand. Such a tiny, shabby place. It's not even as big as the bathroom at home. How can anyone live here? I replied with a grievance. But this place, which isn't even as big as a bathroom, costs $2,000 a month in rent. Rent in Shenzhen basically starts at $3,000, and I was lucky to find a place that was both well located and cheap back then. $2,000, why not just rob me? Looking at her disdainful and surprised expression, I couldn't help but think of my previous life. She has never been to my rented apartment, never known how hard my life has been, yet she always thinks I'm living a good life out there. In my previous life, I kept moving to more and more humble rental places. Yet she turned a blind eye to it. Mom, keep your voice down. What if the landlord hears? She has a bad temper. When you're under someone else's roof, you have to lower your head. In the end, my mom moved into the shabby rental house. In the evening, I handed my salary card to my mother and told her there were only 300 yuan left on it. She tactfully expressed her wish to see me off to work the next day. I agreed immediately, after taking a shower. I deliberately took out the unbranded cosmetics and eagerly handed them to my mother. Mom, use more of this. I bought it specially. The whole set costs only 79 yuan, and it even comes with a free bottle of facial cleanser. Mother had probably never seen skincare products so cheap and in such large containers, instinctively refusing. No need. I'm afraid it'll ruin my skin. I reluctantly took them back, having to enjoy them all by myself. Early the next morning, I woke my mother, who was still sound asleep. Mom, time to get up for work. She couldn't believe she had to wake up at 6 for an 8 o'clock job. So early. Yes, the commute takes an hour. At this point, my mother had no choice but to suppress her morning grumpiness and wash her face and brush her teeth. I specifically sent a message in the company group chat, saying I wouldn't take the company bus today and asking the driver not to wait for me. At 6:30, my mother and I left the house. After my persistent pleading, she reluctantly bought me a 5 yuan breakfast. I was also slightly shocked by the prices in Shenzhen. No wonder I can't save any money. A vegetable bun actually costs 3 yuan each. After that, I took her on the subway, transferring 3 times along the way, which nearly confused her. We finally arrived at the company at 8:45 sharp. Gazing at the skyscraper, she gasped in awe. In the southern district of Xinjiang, countless companies stand tall, and the air is thick with the scent of money. Zhaodi, your company is so wealthy, yet you only earn 3,000 a month. I nodded. Yes, such a luxurious company. At the time, there were 7 or 8 people competing with me. They asked for 5,000, but I only asked for 3,000, so I successfully got the job. My mother took deep breaths, one after another, seemingly quite upset with me. I don't want to comfort her either. Mom, I'm in a hurry. I have to go. Okay, I can go back by myself. don't worry. After saying that, my mother pretended to leave but secretly hid behind a pillar to peek. I know, but I'm not afraid. Upon entering the company, I directly took the cleaning lady's mop. Auntie, let me borrow it for a bit of fun. The cleaning lady was left speechless. My mother, seeing me mopping the floor from outside the building, immediately felt a sense of disdain. You went to work in such a wealthy place, and this is what you do. After reading it, she had a rough idea in her mind. Her daughter really didn't save any money in Shenzhen, with low wages but high expenses. After she left, I returned the mop to the cleaning lady. Thank you. I didn't expect to hear a familiar voice from behind again. Your company's supervisor also works part-time as a cleaner, truly a versatile talent. Turning around, I saw the familiar man and my leader's bewildered face. So I hastily made up an excuse. Morning exercise. I didn't feel like running, so I did some physical labor and helped others. Mr. Chin, who is this? The leader immediately explained. Mr. Xie from Yuyang is here today to discuss the project. Oh, so it's the client. My apologies. Back at my workstation, I turned on the surveillance camera. My mother was on the phone with my father, complaining while rummaging through the cabinets to find the private stash of money I had hidden. That silly girl is truly foolish, going to such a great company just to be a cleaner. She could easily snag a wealthy husband and live comfortably for a lifetime. On the other end of the phone, Mr. Su couldn't hold back his impatience. Did she really borrow from loan sharks? If not, she could have saved at least 100,000 in these 3 years. Is she hiding the money? Jiawei called me yesterday, saying he can't afford to eat outside, so hurry up and get some money back. Mentioning her son, the mother grew anxious as well. Should we use that deposit to help Jiawei first? I'm looking for it. That dead girl's house is a total mess. Even a mouse wouldn't know where to step. No way. The mother's phone was on speaker, and the father's voice was clearly audible. That money is set aside for Jiawei to buy a house. It can't be touched. I absolutely don't believe Zhadi has no savings at all outside. Don't you know her personality? How could she possibly go gambling? As the head of the household, you truly understand the personality of every family member, but today, even if mother turned the floor upside down, she wouldn't find a single cent. Before long, the sound of mother rummaging through the cabinets and boxes drew the landlord. She barged in with a key and started hitting her without a word. Stealing from me, you bitch, I'll beat you to death. Who are you? Stop hitting, stop it. I was deeply impressed by the landlady's fighting skills. Thinking about what fruit to bring her next time to help her recover, in the surveillance footage, the two were seen wrestling and rolling on the ground, eventually attracting neighbors to come and pull them apart. After explaining clearly, the landlady said arrogantly, so what if you're a tenant's mother? This house is mine. If you don't clean it up today, get out with your luggage. My mother, tough on the outside but weak inside and far from home, could only swallow her anger. After the onlookers left, she called me, crying about the injustice she had faced. I remembered how in my previous life, whenever I turned to her for comfort during tough times, she would always blame herself. I relentlessly accused, Mom, even if we take a step back, are you really without fault? What were you doing rummaging through everything? It's perfectly reasonable for the landlord to think you were stealing. Be more careful this time, and don't let it happen again. Not only did she fail to find comfort from her daughter, but she also ended up holding in a belly full of anger. She sat on the ground and cried uncontrollably. I turned off my phone monitoring and started working seriously. It was already 11 o'clock when I finished dinner at the company cafeteria and went home. Even as a supervisor, I am still the last one to leave work. After shutting down the computer, I took a taxi to the nearest subway station, then from the subway station back home. Opening the door and looking at the clean and tidy room, I feigned surprise. Mom, thank you for cleaning my room so well. My mother rubbed her sore waist and scolded. What kind of job do you have? You come back so late just to mop the floor. I said matter-of-factly, mopping the floor is just one part of my job. My official role is as an operations assistant, and I finish work at 9. Then I continue with the evening cleaning. My mother was shocked. You're not a cleaner. Of course not. The cleaning work is a task I specifically took on to please my boss. The boss said that since I joined the company, they've saved a huge amount of money. They even said they'd give me a raise. My mother looked at me as if I were a fool, clearly unable to believe that in the 21st century, someone could still fall for such nonsense. I really am. Sooner or later you'll be the death of me. Paying 3,000 for one person to do the work of 2. Of course your boss is happy. Did he ever say when he'd give you a raise? I thought for 10 seconds, hesitating before speaking. I don't know. He said next time for sure. A minute later, she clutched her chest, slumped to the ground, and burst into tears. How could I have given birth to such a fool like you? Days passed in mutual suspicion and guardedness, until payday arrived. 3,000 yuan was deposited into the mother's account, and she promptly transferred the money to the father. The father then transferred the money to the younger brother. Son, take this for now. I'll transfer more to you when I get my paycheck. Is that all? Do you know my roommates get 10,000 yuan a month for living expenses? I'm the only one with the least, and living with them is making me depressed. The father felt deeply guilty. It's all my fault for not giving you a better life. Just wait a little longer. I'll ask your sister if she has any money, after hanging up his son's call. He immediately dialed his mother's number. My mother habitually plays things out loud, so I put on my headphones and listened clearly through the monitor. I really have no money. I even tried lifting the floorboards, but I didn't find a single cent. Everything she eats and uses is cheap, and her work is a complete mess. My father on the other end of the phone was impatient. If she has no money, let her go borrow some anyway. She was tricked into gambling. So it's no big deal if she goes for a nude loan to get some cash. I listened to my father's cold and vicious words, feeling a wave of nausea in my stomach. This man, who is worse than a pig or a dog, is actually my biological father. After turning off the video, I sent a message to my landlord. I also found over a dozen extras through a friend who is a minor celebrity. At noon, the landlord knocked on the door as agreed. My mother was sitting in the house, chatting with relatives and friends, trying to find a good family for me to marry into. However, the relatives and friends were not foolish. They all knew that I owed high-interest loans outside, so no one dared to act as a matchmaker for me. Knock, knock, knock. My mother stood up and opened the door. What's the matter? The landlord's indifferent face appeared on the surveillance camera. The rent has been overdue for 3 months. How much longer are you going to drag this out? 3 months overdue. It's not like I owe you anything. Why are you coming after me? My mother's expression turned grim, clearly not expecting that my life working away from home was so fraught with hardship. I don't care. You live here anyway, whether you pay or she pays. It's all the same, 1 month's deposit and 3 months rent up front, and while you're at it, pay the next month's rent too. That's 12,000 in total. Upon hearing the amount, her mother gasped for breath. She had hoped to enjoy a comfortable life in the big city by relying on her daughter, but instead, she was being hounded for money. I don't have the money. Please wait until my daughter comes back. Can you give us a few days? My mother refused to give any money, but the landlord, having received my message, was also adamant about not making any concessions. No money. How can you rent a place without money? Get out. Get out of my house right now. If you don't leave, I'll call the police. My mother had no choice but to pack up and move out. An hour later, I finally managed to get through to my mother on the phone. How much money have you actually borrowed out there? How can you not even afford the rent? Now look what's happened. We've been kicked out. And I don't know anyone or anything around here. What am I supposed to do? I shot back. Mom, last month when I got paid, I gave all the money to you. How could you possibly have been evicted for not having enough? 3,000 yuan is nothing. She scolded me a couple of times and hung up the phone. At 7 in the evening, I left work on time. I stunned all my colleagues, who looked as if they had seen a ghost. Even after the elevator doors closed, I could still hear someone saying things like "must be in love" or something similar. An hour later, I emerged from the subway exit and saw my homeless mother standing by the roadside, laden with large and small bags. She stood in the unfamiliar city, her entire being radiating discomfort. Every passerby who glanced at her seemed to be mocking her. Mom, I took 2 steps forward, frowned, and took the large and small bags from her hands, pretending to be at a loss. Mom, what should we do? Where should we go? The mother couldn't believe it. You're asking me, you've lived in this city for so long, and you don't know where to go. I spread my hands, but I really don't know where to go. Just as the two of us stood by the roadside, staring blankly, a group of burly men in black with unfriendly expressions suddenly appeared behind us. Is that you, Sujati? My face instantly turned ashen, and I immediately hid behind my mother. Mom, save me, I'm scared. My mother was scared too, and she didn't even want to stand in front of me, but I held onto her so tightly that she couldn't move. Who are you? Are you Sujati's mother? Good. Your daughter borrowed 300,000 from our boss, and with interest, it totals 500,000. Pay up. Upon hearing the amount, the mother immediately collapsed to the ground. How much? You must be lying. With that much money, why haven't I received any nude photos or death threats from her? The leader sneered. In modern society, debt collection is legal. Don't accuse me wrongly, ma'am. Our legitimate company would never resort to such despicable methods. However, the sight of a group of tall, burly men surrounding 2 women late at night was terrifying enough in itself. Having lived a quiet life for decades, my mother was so frightened by this situation for the first time that she immediately fell to her knees. If you have a grievance, take it up with the one responsible. Go after my daughter. Not me. I have no money, not a single cent. Let me go. Just let me go. Mom, where are you going? Don't just abandon me like this. Mom, I desperately held onto my mother's hand, but the other person used even greater force to pry my fingers apart. Where am I going? I'm going home. If it weren't for you messing around outside, how could I have suffered so much? Let go. Get lost. She pushed me to the ground, and I watched helplessly as her figure disappeared at the end of the road. After my mother had completely vanished, the leader helped me up. Sister Sue, are you okay? I shook my head and paid them the final installment. The extras kindly helped me carry my luggage back to the rental house. I have to admit, at the moment my mother desperately broke free from me, I still felt heartache, but when I woke up, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. I rewrote my tragic life, cut off the burden of my family, and flew toward freedom. The next day, I went to work as usual. But I received a call from my father. On the phone, he furiously scolded me for being foolish and stupid enough to borrow from loan sharks, which led to debt collectors making it known to all our relatives, and now no one dares to marry me. It must have been my mother who brought back the news, confirming that it was all true. I was in debt and living on the streets. The client was pressing me urgently for the manuscript, so I didn't have time to deal with him and hung up the phone. After that, my parents never called or sent me messages again. I was getting closer and closer to a life of freedom, but there was still one last unresolved issue. Jiangyan, I want her to pay the price she deserves. When the company was compiling the list of employees staying over the Chinese New Year this year, I proactively requested to take my annual leave. I thought the boss would object, but instead, he was quite pleased. You haven't been home in 4 years. You really do need a good rest. I'll approve a month of annual leave for you. Now it was my turn to be suspicious. Are you planning to replace me? The boss was quite speechless. Do you see me as a ruthless exploiter in your eyes? In the end, he got annoyed with me and kicked me out of the office. There was no other way. After being reborn, my sense of crisis had become incredibly strong. My current savings are enough for me to buy a home and settle down in an ordinary first-tier city, but not in Shenzhen. Speaking of which, although the client's surname Xie is difficult to deal with, he is truly generous when it comes to paying. If we can collaborate a few more times, buying a home in Shenzhen will be within reach. I bought a train ticket home and called my parents. I didn't tell them the news about going home, but they clearly told me, don't come back this year, take care of yourself out there. It was also from them that I learned my younger brother would be bringing his girlfriend, Jiangyan, home for the new year. In my previous life, Jiangyan appeared in our home as a wealthy and beautiful woman, dressed in all branded clothes. No one doubted her identity as a wealthy and beautiful woman. Even I felt that she was marrying down by choosing Su Jiahui, until I saw a piece of gossip. An AV actress had inserted herself into a wealthy fan's family, causing it to fall apart. The seductive actress in the story was none other than Jiang Yin. No wonder she's so wealthy it took a liking to the 200-pound Su Jiahui. Turns out she's not a rich, beautiful woman at all. I immediately booked a hotel and, carrying my luggage, returned to my long-lost hometown on New Year's Day. I knocked on the door from my memories. When my father saw me, he was so shocked he couldn't close his mouth. I took advantage of his stunned confusion to step forward and hug him tightly. Dad, I've missed you so much. After saying that, ignoring his darkening expression, I rushed into the house and gave my mother and younger brother each a hug. Everyone present was caught off guard by my actions. Before my mother could speak up to kick me out, Jiang Yin emerged from my room, uncle and aunt. I warmly stepped forward to hug her. So this is my sister-in-law. She's really beautiful. I'm Su Jiahui's sister. Jiang Yin was startled by my enthusiasm and took 2 steps back. That can't be true. Jiahui told me he's an only child. My parents looked very uncomfortable but had to smooth things over. It's all a misunderstanding. The festive family atmosphere was ruined by me, leaving only awkwardness. After finishing the New Year's Eve dinner, my parents pulled me into the room. My mother looked displeased. Your room will be given to Yin Yan. She came to our house alone for the new year, and we must show proper hospitality. Great, now I can enjoy the luxurious presidential suite all to myself. Father expressed his disappointment with his usual acting skills. Jody, I never thought that after graduating from university, you'd learn all the bad things and none of the good. I worked so hard to raise you, and this is how you repay me. I lowered my head, letting my thick hair block the nauseating gaze, and remained silent. But fortunately, you have a chance to make amends. The future of our family now rests on your shoulders. Hearing his words, I feigned curiosity. What kind of amends? Your brother and Jiang Yan are getting married after graduation next year, and they'll definitely need to buy a house for the wedding. As the older sister, you can't possibly not contribute anything, can you? He spoke with such confidence and a sense of entitlement. 300,000, no less. Aunt Lou's daughter next door bought a house outright for her brother after getting married. I'm not a biased father. Just give a token amount of 300,000. I don't have the money. I even had to borrow the fare to come home from my boss, then go borrow from loan sharks. Mother expressed her agreement with silence. In my past life, they exploited my labor earnings. In this life, unable to exploit me, they want to squeeze out every last drop of my blood and sweat. Suppressing my anger, I sweetly replied, "Okay." New Year's Day, my parents and younger brother went out to visit relatives, leaving me and Jiang Yin at home. My mother reminded me, "Remember to cook for Yin Yin at noon, and clean up her room while you're at it." I nodded in agreement. By the time Jiang Yin got up at noon, I had already ordered takeout and set a table full of dishes to welcome her. Perhaps Su Jiawei had already told Jiang Yin about my situation last night. A salary of 3,000, working as a cleaner, with all income handed over to my parents. As a result, she showed me no kindness, completely lacking the hypocritical warmth from my previous life. At the dinner table, I deliberately brought up the topic of the marital home. Recently, my parents have been looking at houses everywhere. I suppose your big day is coming soon, by the way. Will the marital home be registered under your name or Jiawei's? Jiang Yin said with an air of arrogance. Of course, it will be under my name. I pretended to be in a difficult position, acting as if I wanted to say something but didn't dare, successfully drawing the other party's attention. Spit it out. But Mom and Dad said to buy it quickly and only put my brother's name on it, so that in case of a divorce in the future, you won't have to fight over the house. Sure enough, Jiang Yan's expression changed repeatedly, and she finally threw down her chopsticks and went back to her room. I stepped forward to comfort her. "Yin Yin, don't worry. I know my brother would definitely be willing to put your name on it, but parents always think too much. We're both girls, and I don't want you to feel wronged in our family either." Jiang Yin held her phone, but never made the call. If he hadn't been pretending to be a rich, handsome guy outside, how could I have been tricked into coming here? And now, before we're even married, he's already trying to guard against me. That's just too much. One pretends to be a beautiful, wealthy woman, the other pretends to be a rich, handsome man, a perfect match. I helped by offering advice. Actually, it's quite simple. I know your parents haven't had time to buy it yet, so why don't you two just get your marriage certificate as soon as possible? That way, no matter whose name it's under, it'll count as marital property. The next day, Jiang Yin indeed pulled her brother into the room, though no one knew what they discussed. On the first day back to work after the new year, the two of them went directly to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get their marriage certificate without telling their parents. With the marriage certificate in hand, Jiang Yin became even more hostile toward her parents. When it came to the wedding house, she outright demanded a property of no less than 100 square meters within the second ring road of the provincial capital, with a designated school nearby. Her parents were so anxious that their lips blistered, but they still couldn't scrape together enough for the down payment. My brother was also anxious. After all, this was the girlfriend he had pursued for 4 years, and he knew that Jiang Yin had always kept in touch with the backup options in her phone, as a caring older sister. I naturally had to help him come up with a plan. "Brother, for your wedding, I will definitely do my best. I promised our parents that I would help you gather enough for the down payment, even if it means taking out a loan." Su Jiawei still looked disdainful upon hearing this. "If it weren't for you being foolish enough to get scammed, the money you saved would definitely be enough for my down payment." Truly the pride and joy of the parents. The whole family leeches off others without a hint of gratitude. I wasn't angry and continued to muse. Even if I stripped and took out a nude loan, I could only borrow up to 100,000 yuan at most, but if I used the property deed as collateral, it would be at least 1 million, right? Too bad Mom and Dad would never agree. After saying that, I deliberately sighed and left. The next day, as I expected, Su Jiawei wanted to go to the loan company with me. Nowadays, loan companies are all splendid and magnificent. When I proposed a nude loan, the staff politely stated that it was a legitimate company and refused illegal loans. They kept urging my brother to mortgage the property deed, offering a loan limit of 2 million. I secretly shared this news with Jiang Yin. The other party immediately called my brother. Sitting in my chair, I could hear words like "too expensive," "villa," and "can't afford it" coming from the hallway. When the call ended, my brother returned to his chair, looking utterly exhausted. "Mortgaging the house isn't a big deal anyway. My parents' assets are all mine. It's just that the monthly mortgage pressure is too much." Hearing my younger brother say this, as his older sister, I immediately announced that I would give him my entire monthly salary of 3,000 yuan, only to receive the response, This little money of yours isn't even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. In the end, Su Jiahui still mortgaged the house and secured a loan of 3 million yuan. This matter caused a huge uproar at home. Father almost had a heart attack. What did you say? You mortgaged this house. This is the house your mother and I are counting on for our retirement. Mother just kept crying. How could you not discuss such a big decision in advance? The only one satisfied was Jiang Yan. She has already been inquiring about the prices of high-quality villas in the provincial capital. In the end, she actually took a liking to the Thousand Water Lake project. I remember that in my previous life, the Thousand Water Lake project was the largest unfinished construction project in the entire province, with over 100 villas left incomplete. In the end, the villas were overgrown with weeds and never delivered. Honey, look at the Thousand Water Lake villas, beautiful environment. Overlooking the river and sea, it's said to be the largest villa complex in the province, and since these are villas, with wealthy buyers, they definitely won't be left unfinished. If Yan Yan likes it, buy it here. Of course, I won't stop them from buying an unfinished building. After all, it's not me who will end up without a house and still have to repay a high-interest loan. A few days later, my parents urged me again to quickly take out a loan to buy a house for their son. After the new year everyone else goes out to work, but you're still lazing around at home. If you have any conscience left, hurry up and take out a loan to pay your brother's mortgage. Father can't even be bothered to pretend anymore. My brother paid a 3 million down payment yesterday, which emptied out the old couple's savings, but the monthly mortgage still relies on their pensions. However, I can't be bothered to pretend either. You go get the loan yourself. You're shameless enough anyway, you wouldn't even have to pay back a new loan. How dare you talk to your father like that? Before my father could say anything, my mother stepped in to defend him. I sneered back, Mom, if you want to take out a new loan, go ahead. After all, it's for your precious son. Su Jiaodi, watch your mouth. If it weren't for Mom and Dad raising you, you'd have died out there long ago. Hearing the commotion inside, Su Jiahui and Jiang Yan also sat hand in hand on the sofa. Seeing the scene, the mother finally took out her long dusty account book. Since you dislike this family so much, let's just cut ties completely from now on. Who knows what kind of mess you've been making outside, and how the relatives have been gossiping about your dad and me. You've completely shamed us. However, before that, you must repay every single cent you owe us without any discrepancy. After saying this, she took out 3 account books. Inside, all my expenses for food, clothing, housing, and transportation in this household were recorded. She put on her glasses, her expression cold and unfeeling. I've done the math. It comes to 266,000. You must pay this amount. I turned and also brought out a ledger from the room. All right, if that's the case, then let's settle the accounts from all these years properly. My ledger is quite simple. Aunt sends me a New Year's money gift from abroad every year, $3,000, for 18 consecutive years. That's a total of 324,000, and you must give it to me. If you don't admit it, I have Aunt's handwritten letters and recordings here. Mother's face suddenly changed, and Father was even more panicked. How did you know? Brother was furious. Mom and Dad, how could you hide such an important matter from me? What about me? What about the money Aunt sent me? Mother was frightened by his furious expression. No, she only sent New Year's money to Jiaodi. After you were born, we also wrote to her, but she didn't respond at all. Heartless bastard. Upon hearing that the money wasn't for him, Su Jiahui turned and cursed at me. After all these years of your parents raising you, you still have the nerve to ask them for money. Have you no conscience? Without a word, I kicked him to the ground. Settling the resentment I've held for years, try insulting me with that foul mouth of yours again. Jiahui, Su Jiaodi, are you crazy? How dare you hit your brother? The mother hurriedly helped her son up, her heart aching for him. The entire family was startled by my life-threatening ferocity, and Su Jiahui even covered his stomach and hid behind his father. Get out of my house. You have no place in this home. Do I even care? I picked up my bag and walked straight out. That night, I bought a ticket back to Xinjiang. Sitting on the train, watching the slowly receding lights of countless homes, I knew I would never return. My household registration was transferred to the university long ago during my college years. I also changed the name on my ID card to Suing, a female eagle soaring slowly and steadily. When I arrived in Shenzhen, I didn't block my parents' contact information, as there was still one final step left. Su Jiahui and his father blocked me. My mother didn't block me, but she often sent long, inexplicable voice messages, always ending with demands for money. I turned around and gave her phone number to a debt collection agency. After a few calls, she never dared to contact me again. Life went on at its own pace. In May, the Qianshui Lake project exploded. The real estate boss was arrested, and the villa project was put on hold. I heard from the neighbor's younger sister that there have been frequent arguments in my house lately. I sneered and added fuel to the fire by sending an uncensored video to the family group chat. I'm sure my brother will be pleasantly surprised when he sees it. A week later, my cousin, whom I hadn't been in touch with for a long time, suddenly sent me a video. In the video, Su Jiahui and Jiang Yin were fighting on the ground. Their parents were also disheveled, crying and wailing about the family's misfortune. You shameless bitch, pretending to be some goddess, a rich and beautiful woman, you're nothing but a cheap flirt. Tell me, whose child is in your belly? Su Jiahui disregarded Jiang Yan's self-respect and tore her clothes off in public. It was only when relatives stepped in to stop him that he finally ceased. Aren't you just a fake rich kid too? Buying a house would bankrupt you. I must have been blind to fall for you. Jiang Yan hid behind the crowd, completely lacking her usual arrogance, but her fighting spirit remained undiminished. The parents, with ferocious expressions, rushed forward to slap Jiang Yan across the face. It's all because of you, you jinx. Why did you have to buy a villa? Now look, all the money is gone. Give me back my money, my retirement savings. The video ended with the police arriving on the scene. Cousin. Are you really not coming back to help our cousin? I happened to be drinking coffee by the roadside, so I took a photo of a trash can and sent it over, still picking up trash, trying hard to save up for travel expenses. The other person didn't ask any more questions. Afterwards, I often receive caring messages from my mother, usually asking about the weather, whether I've eaten, or if I've gotten my paycheck. I blocked and deleted her in one go. I then applied to the company for a long-term business trip abroad. I have a feeling that, after being cornered, they will still come to Shenzhen to find me. The overseas branch is in its early stages and indeed needs leadership talent to be stationed there. The boss is generous, giving me a raise and covering my flight tickets and rental expenses. I rushed to establish the overseas branch without a moment's delay. 2 months later, the boss called me. Your parents actually came looking for you, saying they've arranged a blind date, accepted 100,000 yuan in betrothal gifts, and want you to hurry home to get married. Isn't this a joke? The company gives you more than 100,000 yuan in bonuses every year. I can read between the lines of what the boss said and comforted him. Don't worry, I still want to work hard for a few more years and haven't thought about getting married yet. After hanging up the phone, the man beside me handed me a glass of red wine. Ms. Su's career ambition is truly admirable. I took the red wine and drank it all in one gulp. Mr. Xia, the client, really has too much free time. I even ran into him abroad. May I invite Miss Su to the dance tonight? The man sat casually across from me, exuding an ease that didn't belong to the same social class. The meaning is quite clear. I bask in the sunlight and the aroma of coffee beans, feeling content and relaxed. If God permits, I would treat work as my boyfriend, devoting a lifetime of loyalty to it and asking only for monetary rewards in return. Thus, with a light parting of red lips, came the words, I won't go. In the 5th year of working abroad, I bought an apartment and obtained a green card. I fly back to China once a year to handle company matters, but I don't stay for too long. Xia proposed for the 3rd time, and I rejected him for the 3rd time. Abroad, it's common for people to live together and have children without getting married. So I suggested just living together, but he wouldn't agree, insisting that he couldn't take advantage of me. Then let's just keep dragging it out like this. My cousin told me that the villa my family bought still hasn't been handed over. Jiang Yan's past scandals have spread among the relatives, and she's been clamoring for a divorce. But my brother won't agree. My parents' hair has turned white from worry, and they go to the property site every day to hold banners and kneel in protest. They've been taken to the police station several times. The family's savings were completely drained, and Su Jiahui also failed the civil service exam, working tirelessly every month just to repay the loans. It is said that he also contracted a sexually transmitted disease. I stay away from trouble, spending my leisure time flying alone to Iceland to see the northern lights. Life is slow, and the days are uneventful. Stay away from the noise and live an ordinary life. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. 3 days before the extreme cold apocalypse, my best friend and I bought 2 stones at an antique stall. She gained spatial abilities. I gained beauty abilities. Best friend stockpiled a supermarket's worth of supplies for free. But after her space was exposed, she was tied up and turned into the team's living food storage. Meanwhile, with my stunning beauty, I attracted the admiration of all the opposite sex in the team and became the group's favorite. While the team was out on a mission, I untied the ropes on her, intending to help her escape, but my best friend burst into hysterical laughter and released the supplies, crushing me to death. It's all your fault for choosing the beauty superpower. That's why I'm so miserable now. When I was crushed until my lungs ruptured, I was reborn on the day I went shopping with my best friend. This time, I won't leave a single one for you. 1. While my best friend, Lily, was still laughing beside me, boasting that she had finally been reborn to make a choice, I seized the moment, quickly biting my finger in a flash, dropping blood onto 2 pitch-black stones. Almost instantly as the blood soaked in, an endless, vast space appeared in my mind. As for how my appearance changed, I didn't pay any attention at all. I snatched it just to prevent my cousin from using it to cause me trouble in the future. With such a vast space, I no longer need to act obediently and please others as I did in my past life, living at the mercy of others. As for my best friend, she is truly naive, now that I've been reborn, who would still settle for choosing between just 2 options: villains die from talking too much. After the immense joy of rebirth subsided and she calmed down, ready to bind her special ability, she discovered that the 2 stones had already shattered. With my hands in my pockets, I couldn't help but chuckle at her stunned expression. Xiangqing, you've been reborn too, haven't you? My best friend rushed over to me, grabbed my arm, and frantically asked, would you believe me if I said it wasn't me? Time is running out. If you want to stand here and waste time arguing with me, I'm not going to stick around. With only 3 days left, even if I had the space, I could barely manage to stock up on supplies. As for renovating the house or anything like that, there's simply no time. Who has time to act out this melodramatic, tear-jerking scene with her here, too? I shook off my mentally unstable best friend. I took a taxi to the car rental company and rented a van. Although it has enough space to store supplies, before the apocalypse, I still need to keep a low profile to avoid causing panic and drawing attention. After renting the car, I drove straight to the largest wholesale agricultural market nearby. I still had over 2 million yuan in available funds. A large portion of it was money my parents gave me to buy a house near the company for my convenience. Thinking of this, I made a video call in the family group chat, even though it was a work day. My parents answered the phone right away. Xiaoqing, didn't you go to look at houses today? Did you find any floor plans you liked? Mom asked with concern, and Dad was also listening attentively. Dad, Mom, what I'm about to say is very serious, and you must believe me. In 3 days, an extreme cold apocalypse is coming, and it will last for at least several months. I'm on my way to stock up on supplies now. You should hurry home and find a contractor to renovate. Do as much insulation as possible, and don't hesitate to spend money. Also, I've had a falling out with my best friend, Lily. She has been reborn. In her previous life, she killed me, and now her mind is not right. Don't believe anything she says. Also, the news about the extreme cold must not be leaked. I'm afraid our family will be in danger. I told my parents everything in one go. If there's anyone in this world who trusts me unconditionally and would never betray me, it can only be them. 3. Seeing that my expression was not a joke, my parents chose to believe me, even though concepts like the extreme cold apocalypse and rebirth were beyond their understanding. My parents took only a minute to digest the information I shared. I immediately took leave from the company, reminding me to stay safe outside and saying they would contact the renovation company right away, and they thought it through more thoroughly than I did. Dad said, since your best friend is also a reborn person, she's a dangerous element and can't live in a place she knows. Mom was worried the money wouldn't be enough, so she decided to list the house, originally worth over 4 million, at a rock-bottom price through an agency. Considering safety and privacy, Dad suggested using the remaining savings to rent a bomb shelter in the mountains and hire someone to reinforce it. Bomb shelters are naturally warm in winter and cool in summer, and they offer plenty of space, making them ideal as a refuge base. I trust my parents to handle the foundational work at the rear. Hang up the phone, park the truck, and walk to the stall to start shopping. Beef, lamb, pork, chicken, fish, and large shrimp, all 500 yen each. A good amount of various cooked products was also purchased. Cabbage, potatoes, radishes, spinach, cilantro, and other vegetables were also bought in quantities sufficient for 3 people to eat for 2 years. Considering my mom's love for gardening, I also bought a lot of seeds and planting pots. I didn't forget basic condiments like soy sauce, salt, vinegar, and some pickled vegetables either. The most essential staples like rice, flour, and coarse grains were also purchased in bulk, almost as if I were clearing out the entire market. I also bought other essential supplies for an extreme cold apocalypse, such as cotton quilts, drinking water, down jackets, charcoal, hand warmers, toilet paper, and personal care sets. Considering the extreme cold, heavy snow cover, damage to base stations, paralysis of water and electricity, and loss of mobile phone signals, I also bought functional emergency shelter equipment such as shovels, candles, walkie-talkies, batteries, solar charging panels, radios, compasses, and maps. After ensuring basic living needs, I bought a bunch of novels and entertainment supplies like board games and cards. I also remembered that in novels, The female protagonists in apocalyptic scenarios stockpile cat litter for toilet use, so I stocked up on some as well. Anyway, the space is large enough and it also has a preservation function, so there's no need to worry about storing supplies or issues like expiration and spoilage. I cautiously drove the van around the area after it was fully loaded, then collected the remaining supplies before heading back to the wholesale market, for, when I left the wholesale market, there was still over 1.5 million left in my card balance. Items like medicine, gasoline, and self-defense tools were still left to purchase. These supplies are difficult to stockpile, so I planned to spend the remaining 2 days collecting them. The night grew increasingly gloomy, with most shops closed, making it impossible to buy anything. I drove the minivan to the family room at the hotel my parents had booked and met up with them. In my previous life, I had no idea that the extreme cold apocalypse was coming. When the temperature plummeted, I happened to be sent on a business trip to a neighboring city by my company. Seeing the weather forecast with a red alert for low temperatures, I thought it was just an ordinary cold wave. Little did I expect that the next day, heavy snow would seal off the city. The snow piled up high enough to cover the shrubs on both sides of the road. No matter how much extra I offered, no driver was willing to take me back. My parents and I have been separated like this until later, when communications broke down and we were forced to lose contact. Before the hotel's supplies were exhausted, a group of people who claimed to be a civilian rescue team found me. When I went out with them happily, I saw my best friend tied up in the trunk of the car, with only beauty and no strength to even tie up a chicken. I immediately realized, encountering these people is the most terrifying thing in the apocalypse, to survive and to rescue my best friend. I pretended to be a white lotus and a green tea in front of them, enduring their groping hands and teasing. Glad I didn't tell them my parents' location right from the start. Never expected that the best friend I went to great lengths to rescue would see me as an enemy. Fortunately, in this life, I not only have a space to gather supplies but can also be with my parents to face the extreme cold apocalypse together. 5. Dad, Mom, I'm back, having been busy all day long. I had no energy left to dwell on those troublesome people and matters. Seeing my parents safe and sound again, a mix of complex emotions, grievance, excitement, joy, shame overwhelmed me, and I couldn't help but burst into tears. But my parents looked at me with strange expressions. Oh right. With the enhancement of my beauty ability, my appearance had long since changed dramatically. With makeup, I barely score a 7, but now, even barefaced, I could debut as a star. I awkwardly explained to my parents how I seized opportunities after being reborn. Xiaoqing, you're not wrong. Being kind to her is being cruel to yourself. My parents were pleased with my growth and didn't hesitate to praise me. No matter how your appearance changes, it will never change the fact that you are our daughter. My nose tingled with emotion as I hugged my parents tightly, crying until I was sobbing. It feels so good to be together as a family. Silly child, what's there to cry about? As long as your parents are here, even if the sky falls, it won't be your turn to hold it up. Mom took out a tissue to dry my tears and patted my back to help me calm down. All right, no more crying. Dad saw my eyes red from crying and felt heartbroken. Blaming himself for not protecting his daughter well enough, I shared my stockpiling list with my parents to check for any missing items. Xiaoqing, if it's really as you said, and the heavy snow has sealed off the city, then we should buy some skiing equipment, as well as lifeboats and assault boats. After heavy snow, there's bound to be a great flood. Dad shared his thoughts, and I took out a pen to jot them down in my notebook. It wasn't until my stomach started growling that I remembered I hadn't eaten anything since the afternoon. Fortunately, there was a barbecue shop still open downstairs in the hotel. My parents and I quickly tidied up and went downstairs for some barbecue, once again enjoying the fragrant lamb skewers. I was so happy I could almost scream. 6. Glancing at my vibrating phone, it was another unknown number. Lily really is relentless. I've already blocked all her contact information. Yet she still found a way to harass me. Xiangqing, you wouldn't want your secrets to be exposed to the public, would you? If you don't want to be exposed by me online, find a way to return my supernatural ability to me. In my previous life, I was just too jealous of you and accidentally killed you. I never expected you to be so heartless as to steal my supernatural ability. The apocalypse is almost here. How am I supposed to survive without special abilities? You're deliberately killing me. You know that. I stared speechlessly at the text message from Lily, cursing her in my mind as an idiot. She accidentally killed me, but if I spare her, I'm forcing her to die. People really are hypocrites. What if I have no special abilities? I already know the apocalypse is coming, even without a space. By hoarding supplies ahead of time, I can live more comfortably than ordinary people in the apocalypse. I recall the words she spoke before my death in my previous life. And I can't help but find them laughable. She only saw the sweet words those men spoke to me, but not their lewd actions. When even taking a bite of instant noodles or a sip of water required trading with her body, she saw it more as a form of flirtation. I remember back when we were in college, every guy who tried to get close to me was turned away by her. She called it best friends staying single together. In high school, she tore up the confession letters in my drawer. Using the excuse of fearing I would have an early romance, everything had its signs. I was foolish enough to wait until I was reborn to see her true face. 7. Ignoring the messages. I happily enjoyed a barbecue with my parents. I pretended to be a mukbang streamer and ordered enough food for nearly 20 people, asking the owner to deliver it upstairs for me. The barbecue here tastes great. It's worth stocking up for future cravings. It wasn't until we left the barbecue restaurant that my mom finally asked me, puzzled, why I had ordered so many skewers when I was already full. Mom isn't blaming you for spending money recklessly, Xiaoqing, but wasting food is shameful. I smiled mysteriously, and after confirming that there were no surveillance cameras in the hotel, I stored all the freshly delivered skewers into my space. My parents stared in shock as the grilled skewers vanished right before their eyes. Unable to utter a word, even though I had told them about my supernatural abilities, they had only heard about it. Experiencing it firsthand felt even more surreal. Dad, Mom, my spatial ability not only allows me to store things but also keeps food fresh. Whatever state it's in when I put it in is exactly how it comes out. All the supplies I stocked up on this afternoon are in the space. I don't want to keep secrets from the people closest to me. My parents shouldn't be guarded against. Xiaoqing, this is incredibly practical. Even if Mom and Dad are no longer around in the future, we can rest assured. I directly Papa rejected my mom's words. Although your space is very useful, we still need to keep some supplies outside. In case the space disappears one day, we won't be too panicked. Although Dad was also very excited, he still reminded me, your dad is right, we can't rely entirely on the space. I raised my hand and swore that I would use the space reasonably. Not thinking of living off my abilities just because I had them, with my parents by my side. My first night after being reborn was surprisingly restful. 8. After breakfast, I continued driving the minivan to make purchases, while my parents handled the transfer procedures and took the money to find a renovation company. Driven by the power of money, the renovation company dispatched teams to work in parallel, ensuring that the air raid shelter would be transformed to its optimal state within 30 hours based on the existing materials. The renovation workers reinforced the overall structure, added seismic supports, repaired cracks, and performed soundproofing and anti-seepage treatments. The entrance was equipped with multiple sealed doors, providing protection against radiation, fire, and theft. A hidden door was left as an emergency passage. A filtered ventilation system was installed to prevent the intrusion of toxic gases and dust, separate the living area from the functional area. At my mother's request, a hydroponic facility was added to the planting area. The renovation tools also came with a diesel generator and a significant amount of diesel fuel, as well as a first aid medical kit and common medications. While my parents were busy with the construction, I headed to the extreme sports specialty store. I purchased 10 sets each of skiing and diving gear, along with a good number of life buoys, assault boats, and kayaks. I visited several more pharmacies and managed to buy enough medicine and health supplements. Since each person is only allowed to purchase up to 40 liters of gasoline per day, I had to go door to door in the neighborhoods near gas stations to spread the word. I offered extra laundry detergent and eggs as incentives to have others buy gasoline on my behalf. Although I was mistaken for a scammer and turned away by a few households, the outcome was good. I managed to collect a total of 2,000 liters of gasoline. Finally, I bought a lot of highly lethal tools at the hardware store. On the way back, I passed by the flower, bird, fish, and insect market. Living things cannot survive in the space, but there is a place in the air raid shelter where they can be raised. Under the shopkeeper's gaze that made me feel like a fool, I bought a fish tank and replaced the ornamental fish with edible crucian carp and grass carp. I bought 6 more meat rabbits and 20 quail chickens. With the supplies all purchased, I started focusing on improving my quality of life. Dad loves to drink. Buy. I love junk food, milk tea, and cola. Buy. Mom loves pastries and cakes. Buy. Out of the 1.5 million, I squandered it all until only 3,000 was left. When I returned to the hotel, my parents were still supervising the construction at the air raid shelter. I pulled out a bag of cucumber-flavored potato chips, opened my tablet to download various movies and novels, and lounged with my legs crossed while scrolling through my phone. 9. As soon as I opened the short video app, the first one that popped up was posted by one Lily. In the video, her hair was disheveled, her eyes were red and swollen, and she looked particularly haggard, crying about being betrayed by a good friend who stole her supernatural powers. She also claims to have the gift of prophecy, saying that the apocalypse will arrive in one day. To prove herself, she will be going live tomorrow night. Has the blogger been reading too many novels, talking about the apocalypse and supernatural powers? If you can predict the future, help me figure out when I'll win the lottery. Blogger, I believe in you. I knew the safe house I built and the supplies I stocked up would come in handy. Prophet, does the blogger also play the forward game, apart from some doomsday enthusiasts? No one else in the comments section believed what she said. One Lily, with a fierce expression, replied under the skeptical comments, "Tomorrow night at 9, there will be a nationwide temperature drop, don't ask why." This kind of deliberately mysterious talk still managed to hook a bunch of people who were just hanging around. Brothers, leave a comment. I'm in W City, which is like a little furnace. The weather forecast shows that the temperature will keep rising in the next few days. If it really drops significantly, I'll follow the streamer. Kick me plus 99, right now. I really want to run to One Lily's rented apartment and kill her, with her big mouth. The so-called bombshell she's going to drop in the live stream is definitely about me. 10. On the first day of my rebirth, I also thought about informing the country, but I am just an ordinary, unknown commoner. Even if I posted articles online, not many people would pay attention, and the likelihood of being called crazy would be even greater. There was also no way to directly contact the higher-ups, especially with only 3 days left. Even if they truly believed what I said, there's not much that can be done in such limited time, and I would likely become the target of public criticism for such actions, not to mention whether I, with my spatial abilities, would be taken for dissection and research. In the second life, I am very selfish. I only want to live peacefully with my family, so I decided to go see my best friend. After confirming that the hemp rope and knives were all in place in the space, I dialed her number. "Lily, I've thought it over, and I was indeed in the wrong. I know how to separate the special ability now. I'll be at your place in half an hour, so you must wait for me. You must wait for me to come and collect you." When I opened the car door, the door frame hit my head. It suddenly occurred to me that since the space can only store inanimate objects, does that mean that living things placed inside would also die? I look at the quail sleeping in the trunk. I reach out and grab one, thinking to myself about putting it into the space. The quail indeed disappears. Looking inside the space, I indeed see the quail's body. There are still 19 quail chicks left, and the number is unlucky, so I'll reluctantly round it up. I take out a wooden stick from the space. This time, instead of grabbing them with my bare hands, I touch them with the wooden stick. The chicks are also taken into the space, lifeless. So isn't the space a cheat tool that kills without a trace? How foolish was One Lily in her previous life to have such a powerful weapon in her hands and still be tied up and used as a granary? The speculation has been confirmed. I am fully confident, as long as the other party lacks the truth, it's almost impossible for them to turn the tables on me. 11. I suddenly lost all drowsiness and felt extremely excited. The originally 30-minute drive took only 20 minutes to reach the downstairs of One Lily's rental apartment. One Lee rented an old, dilapidated apartment in an urban village, and the soundproofing was not good. I was about to knock when I heard the conversation inside. "My best friend will be here soon, Brother Chine. I'm sure you'll like her. You promised me, so you can't go back on your word. Also, what I said about the apocalypse is real." One Lily's coquettish laughter came from behind the door. "So I've already been sold out." Brother Chine was a member of that perverted team from my previous life. Under the guise of civilian rescue, they looted supplies from every surviving household. The elderly and children were killed outright, and men who refused to join met the same fate. Women, especially the beautiful ones, were treated like breeding sows, with no dignity to speak of. This Brother Chine was a recently released felon. And for someone like him, the apocalypse was nothing short of paradise. Who would have thought that coming here this time would yield such an unexpected windfall? I raised my hand to knock, and a brief commotion erupted inside the house before One Lily came to open the door. "Ching ching, how come you're here so soon? Come on in, quickly." One Lily seemed to have forgotten how she threatened me yesterday, greeting me at the door with a beaming smile. "Aren't you going to call out the one in the room to welcome me together?" I clasped my hands together, expressionless, with no intention of entering. Brother Chine, who had been observing me from the shadows, grew impatient the moment he saw me. Now that he had been discovered, he remained unafraid. After all, he was a formidable figure who had evaded capture for over a decade after committing a series of crimes. What was there to fear from a young, inexperienced girl? "Brothers, the girl can't wait any longer. Let's not be shy either. Come on out." As soon as the words were spoken, 5 people emerged from the closet, the bathroom, and the kitchen. They were all unfamiliar faces, but what kind of decent people could they be, hanging out with scum like Brother Chine? 12. I watched as a group of people approached me with clubs in hand. led by Brother Chang, who sized me up under the light. First, look at the face, then at the figure, and finally at both the face and the figure, nodding with great satisfaction. Brothers, this girl is hot, let me have some fun first. No problem, right? The underlings wouldn't dare to say no. Besides, the boss gets the meat first, and they get the broth later. That's the rule of the game. Fierce and menacing, they stood on either side, ready to strike if I dared to resist. With that, Brother Chang reached up to wrap his arm around my waist, trying to pull me into the room. 12. I dodged to the side and closed the door behind me, retrieving the iron rod from the space. He struck the men with the force of a drunken master's fist. Keep thinking in my mind about reclaiming the space. The whole process took less than 15 seconds. Brother Chang, who had tormented me for a year in my previous life, and his underlings were now lying in my space as lifeless bodies. Wan Lily, standing nearby, was dumbfounded. She couldn't figure out how I had performed such a miraculous feat. Shouldn't it have been me who was humiliated, then tied up and used as a tool for hoarding supplies, just like she was in her previous life? I held the iron rod, looking at her with gratitude. Wan Lily's legs went weak, and she immediately knelt on the ground, kowtowing to me repeatedly. Ching Ching, please let me go. I know I was wrong. I'll never target you again, don't worry. I definitely won't tell anyone your secret. When people are extremely frightened, they can't cry. She doesn't realize she's wrong, she's just afraid of dying. But only the dead can keep secrets, right? I kindly told Wine Lily. You asked me how I could make them disappear. Thanks to you. If it weren't for you, how could I have been reborn and obtained the space, and then used it to kill them? I took the body out of the space and showed it to her. All right, now you know, and you can set off with peace of mind. Before One Lily could utter her plea, I had already drawn her into the space. If the weeds are not pulled out by the roots, they will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Only by dealing with the troublemaker can I feel at ease. Recalling my previous life, One Lily was able to easily retrieve supplies and crush me to death. So I can also store some items with sufficient tonnage in my space for backup, as long as the location is open enough. I can even deal with those terrorists without having to do it myself. I drove to the abandoned parking lot. I collected quite a few scrap trucks and cars. In terms of weight alone, the trucks definitely have enough tonnage. 13. When I returned to the hotel, I received a message from my parents saying they were taking turns resting in the air raid shelter while supervising the workers' construction, and they wouldn't be back tonight. He also reminded me to rest well and go directly there tomorrow at noon. I checked the supplies in the space to make sure nothing was missing. When I woke up in the morning, I spent the remaining 3,000 yuan and bought a bunch of breakfast. After completing the checkout procedures, I went to the air raid shelter to meet up with my parents. The bomb shelter was built on the mountain, originally intended as an emergency refuge. A significant amount of money was spent on reinforcing it, making it as solid as a rock. By the time I arrived, the construction crew had already cleaned up the renovation debris, handed over the project, and left. My parents were busy cleaning up. The entrance is large enough for me to drive the van inside. I took out hot steamed buns and soy milk with fried dough sticks from the space and invited my parents to have breakfast. Then I checked the facilities in the air raid shelter. The cave is 3 meters high, 5 meters wide, and 70 meters long. From the entrance, it extends horizontally into the mountain. On the left is the living area, with 2 bedrooms, followed by the kitchen, living room, and bathroom. On the right is the work area, with a monitoring room, storage room, planting area, and breeding area. I take out some long-lasting vegetables, dry food, and drinking water from the space and place them in the storage room. After draining the water from the tank with my dad, we lifted it off the truck and installed it in the breeding area. The meat and quail adapted quickly, hopping around energetically within the enclosure. After our family finished the big cleanup, we took out the thick blankets and quilts, waiting for the arrival of the extreme cold apocalypse. 14. It is now late May, and for most regions, temperatures have already started to rise. In the southern regions, many people have even started wearing shorts and t-shirts early on. So on the day of the big temperature drop, they were the most miserable. Many people slept with their air conditioners and fans on, and ended up freezing to death. In the evening, after having a home-cooked stir-fry, we sat in the living room, scrolling through our phones and chatting. Around 8 p.m., the big temperature drop started from Hebei province, plummeting from 3 degrees Celsius to minus 30 degrees Celsius in just half an hour. Then the cold wave continued to invade, crossing the Qinling Mountains and moving further south. Even on Hainan Island in the south, temperatures dropped from 17 degrees to minus 20 degrees Celsius. People took out their winter quilts from the bottom of their wardrobes. They rummaged through boxes and cabinets to find down jackets to put on, set the air conditioner to heating mode. I was browsing the short video platform, and on One Lily's account, a group of people were calling her a master. They urged her to start a live stream, asking her what they should do, how long the temperature drop would last, And so on. Unfortunately, they won't be able to wait any longer. However, with Wang Lily's warning, many people realized that this temperature drop was not simple. They bundled up in down jackets and went to supermarkets to stock up on supplies. On the mobile weather forecast, the temperatures for the next 15 days were replaced with a low temperature warning. The news broadcast also urgently reported the arrival of the cold wave. Reminding the public to stock up on supplies and avoid going out unless necessary, companies and schools also issued notices overnight to suspend work and classes. Temperatures continued to drop, stabilizing at -50 degrees Celsius only by 4 a.m. 15. On short video platforms, users with IP addresses in Cheong Island posted videos of heavy snowfall in the area. In the Northeast Province region, hailstones as large as eggs were falling directly. The cars parked by the roadside were not spared. Pedestrians who had gone out to stock up on supplies fell to the ground under the hail's assault and could not get up again. The worst off were those trapped on highways, trains, and airplanes. Trains were suspended, flights were grounded, and countless reports of plane crashes appeared in the news broadcasts. Nationwide, along with the significant drop in temperature, there is also snowfall. Everything visible on the ground was covered in white snow. The pure white snow, at this moment, chilled everyone to the bone, but I knew this was only the beginning. If we didn't take advantage of this day to go out and search for supplies, things would only get harder from here on. Mom and Dad watched the disaster scenes reported on the news, feeling deeply distressed. They were able to sit by the fireplace, drinking warm milk tea, all thanks to their daughter. The ventilation in the air raid shelter was excellent. Even when burning charcoal for warmth, there was no risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. Mom handed me a jewelry box, which was filled to the brim with gold accessories. Darling, these are the dowry that Mom and Dad have saved for you every year since you were born, along with our family's entire savings. No matter when, gold is always a solid currency, so you must take good care of it. As parents, we plan for the long term. Holding the heavy jewelry box, I was embraced in my mother's arms. The outdoor temperature had already dropped to -43 degrees Celsius, while the indoor temperature could still be maintained at around 10 degrees Celsius. I got 2 more thick quilts ready for my parents. Tonight, none of us dared to sleep. In the end, it was only after I acted cute and pleaded that my parents agreed to go back to their bedroom to rest. The backup power in the bomb shelter is dwindling with each use. And we all know it's not yet time to turn on the air conditioning. 16. The heavy snow fell all night, and many residential property management companies have arranged for residents to start shoveling snow. I laid tarps near the entrance and ventilation openings last night. Just by touching the tarps, all the snow can be collected into the space. The melted snow can also be used to flush toilets and water crops. Most importantly, it saves the labor of a family of 3. I put on my down jacket, hat, gloves, and goggles, and went out to collect snow. Even so, stepping outside still felt bone-chillingly cold. I opened the door quietly, but my parents still woke up from their sleep. I quickly closed the door after finishing my task, but after just a short time outside, the cold air clinging to my clothes had already condensed into water. My parents told me to go rest, and the 2 of them got busy in the kitchen. Mom planned to make more steamed buns and dumplings, and also prepare some fresh noodles to store in the space. As the weather gets colder, they can be taken out to eat when we don't feel like cooking. The frozen foods I had stocked up on were considered pre-made meals by my parents, and not healthy. Dad went to the planting area to plant bok choy and lettuce, using the outer, older leaves of the cabbage to feed the rabbits. The quail is quite productive, laying 2 clutches of eggs on the very first day after moving to the new home. After keeping watch all night, I let my guard down and fell into a comfortable sleep on the soft, warm bed. When I woke up, it was already 1 in the afternoon. The filling prepared by Dad and the buns wrapped by Mom were emitting an enticing aroma from the steamer. I washed my hands clean, picked up a warm steamed bun, and stuffed it into my mouth. The skin was thin, the filling was juicy, and it was still my favorite cumin onion beef filling. In my previous life, I was trapped in a hotel, and to survive, I could only drink melted snow to fill my stomach every day. Happiness is largely a matter of comparison. After the meal, my father went to the monitoring room for his shift, while my mother and I followed an online blogger on the tablet to learn how to practice the 8-section brocade. To survive in the apocalypse, you must have a strong body. 17. For lunch, we had a clay pot stew with pork ribs and chicken, accompanied by side dishes of potatoes, dried beans, and firm tofu. The tofu soaked up the broth, and the potatoes were soft and tender. Just as I was about to take a nap, I saw through the surveillance camera that a group of people were lingering near the air raid shelter. This family must know something. That's why they're spending extra to build a shelter. I see the gate is closed, so there must be someone inside. The bald, middle-aged man speaking was the construction worker from the day before yesterday. Along with him were several workers and their accompanying family members. Each one is as sturdy as a blind bear. They all live in the town at the foot of the mountain. After the big temperature drop yesterday, his son told him that an online prophecy master had revealed the end of the world. There isn't much stored food at home, let alone any supplies to keep out the cold. Besides, what my son said is right. Once the water, electricity, and internet collapse, everyone will be driven to desperation. And there will surely be looting and killing. Since we know there's a fat pig, we should strike first, otherwise, once others catch on, we won't even get a single hair of the pig. Baldhead remembered that during the construction, the couple who came to supervise the work accidentally let slip that they had a daughter. Counting all, there are only 3 people in the shelter. They have over 20 people and brought professional door-breaking tools. Once they break in, they can claim the place as their own. 18. Dad has sharp eyes and recognized the bald man from the surveillance footage. Xiaoqing, he's the worker who came for construction the day before yesterday. I never expected that just one day later, he would bring so many people to our doorstep. Mom also worriedly held my hand, her face filled with concern. What should we do? If they kept a spare key when they were renovating, we'd be in danger. I opened the ventilation window left on the door, took out a slingshot from the space, held a steel ball bearing, and aimed at the bald man. Then I released it, hitting a tree half a meter away from him. First warning, if he takes people and retreats, I don't want to get ruthless in front of Mom and Dad either. Who would have thought the bald guy was fearless? Once his tracks were exposed, he immediately called over the workers with him to try and force the door open. I cleared the snow to block the door, but it ended up making things easier for them, since they're so eager to die. I'll grant them their wish. The 4 men walked to the door, opened their toolbox, and began removing it. Through the door's surveillance, I saw them leaning against it, each making contact with the surface. With a single thought, I pulled all 4 into the space through the iron door and instantly released their corpses. Watching my actions, my parents were so tense they began to stammer. Xiaoqing, from now on, when Mom and Dad hug you, you must control your thoughts. I felt a bit helpless. My daughter killed someone right in front of them, and they don't blame me for being cold-blooded. Dad could tell what I was thinking and became serious. Sweetheart, it's the apocalypse now. None of us can afford to be overly compassionate. If you hadn't acted, once they got in, they wouldn't have spared us either. Mom and I don't blame you. Understand. Dad's broad hand stroked my head as he earnestly guided me with heartfelt advice. The woman and child, still crouching outside the circle, waiting for the man to break through the door, rubbed their eyes in disbelief. Had they just been hallucinating? Why did it feel like their husband had vanished for a second and then suddenly collapsed? Weird. Could it be that a monster who has become a spirit lives in here? A group of people pushed and shoved each other, wanting to send someone over to see if the bald man was dead. I've already given them a chance, but they didn't cherish it. Several abandoned trucks were released from the space and crashed into the area where the crowd had gathered. Wails continued to ring out until the sounds grew weaker and weaker. I opened the door and stored the toolbox back into the space. I didn't look back at the people crushed beneath the trucks. They were all elderly, children, and women, in the freezing snow, injured. There was no way they could survive. 19. In the following days, the temperature dropped even lower. Even Cheong Island reached minus 60 degrees Celsius. The snowfall lasted longer and longer, and the snow accumulated faster than people could shovel it away. Most households lack protective goggles, and the number of people suffering from snow blindness is increasing. The authorities acted swiftly, opening numerous relief shelters on the 3rd day of the severe cold snap, but with the heavy snow blocking the roads, a place that used to be just half a day's drive away now takes at least half a month to reach when traveling with the whole family. It's still good luck that I didn't die halfway. It shows how severe the punishment of exile to Ninguda was in ancient times, before the entire network collapsed. A blogger with a blank avatar and a profile that read Heavenly Palace's eldest Yen master uploaded a video on the website. The content showcased extreme wealth. In the magnificent villa, a warm fire blazed in the fireplace. While everyone else was struggling to make ends meet, the Yen master fed his leftover steak to the dog, soaking in a huge hot spring pool. He was surrounded by bikini-clad models feeding him grapes mouth to mouth. At the end, the Yen master still seemed unsatisfied, walking to the basement to reveal a warehouse full of supplies. 5 minutes after the video was posted, the account was deleted, but netizens didn't forget. Someone recorded the screen and publicly collected the blogger's information online, with many hands making light work. In less than an hour, the Yen master's home address and family background were completely exposed. The comment section is filled with netizens clamoring to go to his house to beg for alms. This scared off those bloggers who had been subtly posting pictures and text with a sense of superiority, causing them to flee overnight and delete their accounts. No matter what kind of environment, there will always be such foolish people. Criminals rack their brains, but they can't match their sudden inspiration. 20. It has to be said, netizens are incredibly efficient. The next morning, over 2,000 people spontaneously gathered around the young master's villa. More and more people kept arriving. Some were carrying axes, others hammers and chainsaws, and some even had compound bows. When the villa's security system was activated and the electric fence turned on, it only stunned a group of people to death. Those who came later to break down the walls were wearing insulated gloves. Guards in the watchtowers inside the walls kept firing guns and shooting arrows, trying to drive back these rioters. But there were simply too many people. The guards ran out of bullets, yet the crowd showed no sign of thinning. It was as if they couldn't be killed off. The man with the compound bow took advantage of the bodyguard reloading and shot him in the head with an arrow. This boosted the morale of the rioters. Someone cut down trees from both sides of the road, lit a fire to dry out the moisture, and made a simple ladder. The first person to enter opened the villa gate, and then everyone rushed in. As they stormed into the villa, they saw a group of lavishly dressed people packing gold bars, preparing to escape through an underground passage. The rioters were already fired up, and at that moment, their eyes turned red with rage. Why was it that no matter how hard they worked their entire lives, they could never earn even a fraction of what these people had, and the sons they shielded behind them were born into a life of luxury and privilege? The entire family was brutally disfigured, including the dog that appeared in the video. Perhaps it's the extreme cold apocalypse, no one is working, and such bloody videos can still be uploaded to the platform. I looked at the bowl of savory tofu pudding drenched in chili oil and hesitated to take a bite. 21. Extreme cold for half a month, with water and electricity paralyzed in most areas. The number of refugees received by the official base has far exceeded a reasonable limit. A small shelter of just over 30 square meters houses 20 people eating and sleeping inside. The authorities have announced a suspension of refugee intake. However, they have promised to deploy troops to deliver supplies and urged people not to give up hope. I live with my parents in a spacious air raid shelter, where we eat, drink, and sleep all day. Several waves of clueless people tried to target us, but I ended up taking them all into my space. I left all the corpses on the road to the shelter, and those who know better will naturally take a detour when they see them. Until March of the following year, the extreme cold continued to rage. Mom used to be a history teacher, and I was afraid she'd get bored, so I pulled out a book I'd bought on a whim while stocking up. I never expected my mom to become so addicted to time travel novels, cursing the author for disrespecting history while being completely engrossed in the story. Her heart aching for the female protagonist's suffering. My usually strong dad, on the other hand, seemed a bit downcast. I took out the skiing gear from the space and occasionally went skiing with my dad. The breeding area in the air raid shelter had already taken shape on a large scale. There are hydroponic bok choy, melons, and tomatoes, as well as cabbages and potatoes thriving in the soil, for meat rabbits kept breeding, giving birth to over 70 baby rabbits within half a year. Dad made them into spicy rabbit cubes to go with his drinks. With plenty of supplies stored in the space, our family didn't have to skimp on food. In the morning, have steamed buns or small wontons, and drink soy milk. At noon, enjoy a standard home-cooked stir-fry with 4 dishes and a soup. In the afternoon, you can even have a small dessert as a snack and drink some milk tea. A life where you don't have to go to work and can reasonably stay at home is simply too enjoyable for a homebody. 22. On April 28th, the temperature finally began to rise. In just 2 days, the temperature rose from -50 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius. On the third day, it soared directly to 30 degrees Celsius. The snow melted rapidly, and the entire country entered a new cycle of high-temperature floods and apocalyptic conditions. The urban drainage systems were completely overwhelmed, with lower-level residences being directly submerged, and low-lying rural areas turning into vast expanses of water. My parents and I replaced the heavy wool blankets with cool mats, took off our down jackets, and put on short sleeves. When it's cold, you can still keep warm by wearing more layers, but when it gets hot, even if you wear as little as possible, you still feel uncomfortably warm. Even leftover food must be stored in the refrigerator, or it will spoil the same day. When the temperature outside the bomb shelter reached 50 degrees Celsius, I turned on the air conditioning and enjoyed the chilled mung bean soup my mom made to beat the heat. High temperatures cause the decay of various plants and animals, while floods spread viruses to every corner. Clean drinking water became the most sought-after resource. A person can endure hunger, but without water, they cannot survive for more than 7 days, especially in high temperatures. Severe dehydration can occur after just 3 days without water. Many survivors who endured the extreme cold did not make it through. Fortunately, it seems that fate did not intend to wipe out humanity entirely. The high-temperature apocalypse lasted only a month before temperatures returned to normal thresholds. Officials have begun extensive efforts to recover bodies, conduct disinfection, and search for survivors. The inherent national cohesion of the Chinese people tightly unites every compatriot. In August, all cities above the third-tier level completed disinfection and post-disaster reconstruction. Every surviving individual can apply for a housing unit. My parents and I were even allocated a large flat in the urban area of Beijing for our active participation in disaster relief efforts. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.